7 o'clock. I'll now call the monthly meeting of Cecil Township Zoning Hearing Board to order. I'll let the record show myself present. Board member Dave Martinez absent. Member Tom Pritchett present. Alan Warren, Alderman is present. Candace Walker, Dan Collins. Present. He is listening tonight. He is filling in for Chris Volz personally. Chris Volz is also on Zoom tonight. Liz Ross, zoning office. Interested parties in the audience. First item on the agenda for tonight is for the board to approve the minutes dated July 20th, 2020.
Motion to approve.
I second. I have read. I have no conditions or corrections. Motion being made and seconded. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So there is no old business. Before we start new business tonight, noting the absence of Mr. Martensi, the chair will make the motion to appoint Alan Warney as a voting member tonight. That with approval from both hearing applicants of each hearing. I make that motion.
Second.
A motion being made and second. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. I will take this in the first item under new business. Before we did get to that, I think we have parties for both hearings tonight.
Yes.
We can all stand and be sworn in at one time as a group. It would work if they do it individually. Anybody that wants to speak?
Each of you do solemnly swear the testimony, please raise your hands. Each of you do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give this especially the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but yourself, you God.
First item of new business tonight is application 2020-008, Dennis Sluciak, location 78 Willoughby Road, Cannonsburg, PA. The nature of the request is appeal of the zoning officer's determination regarding issuance of a building permit for the cell tower.
Mr. Chairman, I will recuse myself from this portion of the meeting.
Noted. And did you, Mr. Barney is recusing himself?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Barney, will you be available for the second hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the members plan to me and Tom Pritchett. Mr. Sluciak, were representatives present tonight?
Yes. Dwight Ferguson.
Sir, would you come to the podium, state your name and address for the record?
Yes. Dwight Ferguson. I'm with the law firm Farney Ferguson, and that's located at 2605 Nicholson Road, Suite 2201, Sewickley, PA 15143. You want me to move forward?
Please.
Okay, sure. So I have assembled the documents that I will be relying upon in a binder. I provided that to my colleagues. It's of course possible that they may have an objection to a document, but if I don't have an objection from my colleagues, that is counsel for the property owner, Hidden Acres, for the township, and for Crown Castle, I'd like to provide each member of the board, Ms. Ross, and legal counsel with a copy of that binder. Any document which you don't admit as part of the record, we'll just disregard. But there's no objection to that? Okay.
I don't have any objections. It's just the board's not going to have time to review it tonight.
And it wouldn't be necessary. But they'll just, I just need to make them part of my record.
Do you want to enter that as exhibit, Mr. Ferguson?
Well, each of them are marked as exhibits.
Okay.
And just respecting...
Individual exhibits inside?
Yes, they are, yes. And so, just respecting that my colleagues may have an objection to something, I'll just move each one as I refer to them.
Are
Okay?
you going to go through this, sir?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
But we're not going to read every single page.
Okay.
Promise you. Let's see. Mr. Barney's accused himself, right?
Yes.
So, okay. Who's the counsel? Mr. Bolt?
I have one right here. Yeah.
All right. I think we're good. document that I have is Exhibit 1. The first
She said the same thing, or he wasn't.
The first few documents that I have are just for purposes of establishing Mr. Sluciak's standing in this case to bring the appeal. I go through those fairly quickly. Exhibit A1 is the appeal that was filed by Mr. Sluciak in this case. Exhibit A1, with little a, is a letter setting forth the basis for this appeal, which I would like to make part of the record. I'll move all these at once. Exhibit 2, it's A2, is Mr. Sluciak's deed to his property. At the top right-hand corner of that deed, I have highlighted in orange the deed book volume and page number, which will become relevant in just 1 minute. Exhibit A3 is the application for conditional use hearing, which was filed previously by and on behalf of Crown Castle. And the page immediately following that, is anybody lost? Has anybody lost it? All right, the page immediately following that is just one of the certified mail receipts showing that Mr. Sluciak was someone who was entitled to receive notice of that hearing. And then the third page under tab 3 is a copy of the plan of the proposed cell tower, and that's Crown's plan, and I have highlighted the boundaries of Mr. Sluciak's property, and I have written on there, because it's a little hard to read, that property is identified with the same deed book volume and page number as I have previously shown you as Exhibit 2. So for purposes of standing, the documents thus far simply show that he has a legal interest in property which abuts the site of the proposed cell tower. Then Exhibit 4 is just a copy of the land use appeal that was filed by Mr. Sluciak in the Court of Common Pleas of Washington County, in which he enjoyed party status to challenge the conditional use hearing. Exhibit 5 is a notice of appeal to the Commonwealth Court filed by Mr. Sluciak, in which he was a party to those proceedings. Okay, so at this time I'd just like to move the exhibits 1 through 7 into the record. We're halfway through.
No objection to the township.
I don't have a problem with accepting those, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So the next document, which appears in here, is marked, it's under tab 8, and it's marked A8, A for appellant. This document is a pleading that was filed in a case pending in the Court of Common Pleas of Washington County. And this pleading was filed on behalf of the property owner, Hidden Acres, East Apartment Community, Inc. And I would just like to direct the attention of the Zoning Hearing Board to the third page, it's paragraph 6, and I've highlighted it for ease of reference. And this is an allegation in a civil proceeding that says that on or about January 9th, 2020, Crown Castle submitted an application for a building permit pursuant to which the township issued building permit number, as stated, on February 11th, 2020, the building permit. It's our position that that document was the first time that we learned of the issuance of a building permit. Then the next tab is A.8.A. Sorry for the somewhat confusing labeling of these documents. And so the email on the bottom is for legal counsel who was one of the attorneys who filed this document. And that email was sent, as you can see, on Friday, June 12th at 3:03 p.m. And that email is purportedly transmitting a copy of the preliminary objections, and then without waiving the attorney-client privilege, on top is an email showing that on June 15th, 2020, at almost 5 o'clock is when we, which was Monday, is when we saw that email, and I sent it off to my client. There was so that allegation in that lawsuit, it represented that a building permit was issued, but as I stand here today, I've never seen the building permit. So then, from perhaps, well, from the township, we have Exhibit A.8.B. Similarly, a pleading filed on behalf of the township in the same litigation, and in paragraphs 7 and 8, it again represents that the township, specifically paragraph 8, represents that the township issued a building permit to Crown Castle on February 11, 2020. Again, it wasn't attached to the pleading. That's not a criticism. No one would expect this to be attached to this type of pleading. But, so this is at least a corroboration from the township that they did issue a permit. And although, once again, as I stand here today, I've still never seen it. And then A.8.C is Attorney Moore's email to me simply on June 19th, again, Friday, June 19th at 4:20, transmitting the preliminary objections to my attention. So, so for now, I'd like to move Exhibits 8 through 9. So 8 and their subparts through 9.
Just a correction for the record, when you introduced 8, you said it was on behalf of the neighbors. I believe 8 is on behalf of Crown Castle.
Yes, I stand corrected. That was filed by Attorney Ratcher's law office. That was Crown Castle, yes. Thank you for that correction. And Hidden Acres did file preliminary objections, but it didn't really, doesn't add anything to this.
With that, I don't have any objections.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll just point out that these are public records in court, so I don't have any objections.
Right. Yeah.
Anybody else have anything?
Sure. No. It's fortunately we're not. Some of these are not. These are not even evidentiary. Some of them, but it's just telling the story for purposes of presenting our case. So I'm now on Exhibit 9, and this is a copy of a provision in the municipality's planning code which governs the filing of the timeliness of filing of an appeal from the issuance of a permit. And the board at its leisure, under advice of counsel, can read and interpret that on its own, but I would just like to draw the attention of the board to the highlighted portions. Generally, you cannot file an appeal later than 30 days from, in this case, it would be the issuance of the building permit. So the building permit, according to these pleadings, was issued on February 11th of 2020. So normally, you'd have to file by March, somewhere around March 11th, 2020. But it goes on to say, unless such person alleges and proves that he has no notice or knowledge or reason to believe that such approval has been given, and in that case, subsection B just underscores the 30-day requirement. All appeals from determinations adverse to the landowner shall be filed by the landowner within 30 days after notice of the determination is issued. That either A or B requires 30 days from either the issuance of a permit with which you would like to file an appeal, or if you are unaware that a permit was issued, as in this case, it's from when you either had no